So this is a description of what we're going to see in the demo. This is the environment that we have in Amazon. We basically have two availability zones. We have a private subnet connected with a VPN over to the data center where we have vSphere environment. In this case, the data center is in Miami. The cloud environment is in North Virginia, so about 1,000 miles away, 30 milliseconds latency from a network perspective. The cloud appliance is deployed with a two-node configuration, one in each availability zone. Okay, so let's switch over to that data center in Miami, and I'm connecting here to our jump server, and this is vCenter environment there. We have a VM running Windows 2012 and Sugar CRM, and as a simple application to demonstrate with, and let me ping Sugar CRM, and we'll ping it again after it's running in the cloud. And you can see it's local on that LAN. So let's connect to that machine. And what I'll do is run a quick web load on that Sugar CRM application to demonstrate the impact on the ESX host. And in this case, it's really a combination of showing the use case around data center extension and cloud bursting for that VM. So what we'll see here, this is a I'll start the application when I can show you around once the load is starting. So generating about 20 user concurrent load on that machine, and we can take a look at the CPU here. So load will start ramping up pretty soon, and as a result, the response time is going to be impacted. So that's kind of a typical situation where CPU becomes a bottleneck. The application is not capable of dealing with the load that is starting. So you can see here 100% CPU, and we'll start seeing the response time going up. So obviously 100% CPU of the VM, and as I mentioned, this is a 2 CPU, 8 gigabyte RAM machine. Let's look at the impact on the host. And that host is holding all kinds of other systems, not necessarily less important than this one. So we need to be careful with the impact that this machine is doing. So this small VM is actually now taking about half of my host capacity, and that impacts my density. So obviously not a good situation to be in, and as things will go by, I'll start getting alerts of high CPU. So now that I identified the culprit, what I'll do next is go to that Sugar CRM machine, and I'll run it in the cloud. Okay, so as you can see here, it's a 2 CPU, 8 gig of RAM. Memory doesn't seem to be a problem. 2 CPUs do. So let's get an instance in the cloud that has a lot more CPUs. The other thing that you see here, it has 3 block devices, 3 disks, virtual disks associated. One of them is a terabyte disk, out of which about over 200 gigabytes are populated. So not a small machine to move around. Let's do that transition. So right click on the VM, and we'll select through our plugin, we'll select a new action called Run in Cloud, and that will open a wizard that will allow us to select which cloud provider to go to, which VPC or virtual private cloud to run the VM in, and then we'll select what instance type we want. Since we want more CPUs, let's pick a machine that has 8 CPUs, for example.
So do you only support AWS?
Right now we support only AWS. We plan on adding Azure and other cloud providers in the future, which will allow you to not just go back and forth from on-prem, but also across different cloud providers.
Right.
Cool.
The storage policy is the next decision, and this is where you can choose whether you want the changes happening in the cloud to be written back to on-prem, or you want them to be kept in the cloud for the time that the system is living there. They are persistent across reboots, but if you decide to move the machine back, the changes are going to be lost. It's good for dev test scenarios where you don't want to persist that I/O on premise, and it can also offload the WAN link and offload your storage on-prem if you deal with multiple environments. So we'll choose write back as the default, and then we'll choose a security group and subnets with IP addresses, etc., based on what's available, what's pre-configured in that account in Amazon. So it's something that every organization will define their own. And that's about it. All you need to do is just approve it and wait. What you'll see next is a task created in, well, you can see much here. There's a task created in vCenter that shows the activity that is going on. So there's a running cloud task that is added, and if you're picking up these in your monitoring, operations monitoring, they will show as any other task and event. And there's also a portlet that is added in the summary page, and I'll just maximize it so that we can get a better look. And what happens now is the system is being shut down. We're using the VMware APIs to shut down the guest, and it's going to be moved to run in the cloud. That process in this case takes about 3 to 5 minutes. We'll wait for it to come up, and when it's ready, we'll see the remote console turn green. In addition, we're taking a snapshot before we leave so that we always have a latest and greatest recovery point to go back to in case there's a cloud outage before we could do any the initial checkpoint. Okay. Any questions so far?
I do have one. You mentioned not injecting things into the operating system. How do you handle the conversion between virtual hardware? Like if I'm running vSphere to Zen, you use for
So we don't ask you to install anything in advance. What we do in the transfer between on-prem to the cloud, we do inject drivers for Zen for Windows which are not there.
It's done offline as part of the streaming process.
Streaming it in.
Yes.
Yeah, we stream them in. We also do the relevant networking changes, KMS changes, etc.
Undo on the way back.
Okay.
So that we're in compliance with the requirements of the cloud provider, of the vendor, in this case Microsoft, etc. Okay. So as you can see now, this streamlining of the image is being finalized. And next is there's going to be a cloud instance created. Now, I'll show you behind the scene, basically opening the Amazon console, and we'll see what happens there. But effectively, as a VMware user, you don't need to go to the Amazon console or provide access to it. Everything that you need is listed here. So let's go to the Amazon console, and let me just.
So how much storage is actually being transferred? What are the key
Yes.
that are
Puts
going
and
to,
gets and
is it like
So it's streaming.
determined when it's turned off?
Let's see that in a moment. As I mentioned, we're doing a bunch of predictions as well as activity that I can't go into the details right now, but we're learning from the behaviors of the VMs, and past behaviors are also reflecting on future executions on the VM. So there's a learning knowledge that is also accumulated.
Okay.
So as you can see,
But virtual streaming, to your question, means that we don't have to move things that are not necessarily being accessed. So it's only what needs to be streamed is there.
Yeah.
So there's no need to take the 200 gigabytes and ever move them if they're not being used. It's the same for the boot image.
Of course, but I can imagine you need something there.
Of course.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's this is the VM that we spin up in the cloud, and if you click on the block developer, and now you can see the machine is ready.
Yeah.
So I can just RDP into it.
So is that your own bootloader that starts ringing?
I was trying to hold off. I know everybody's hungry. I was like, okay. I can see this Pixie booting. A mini.
We're not disclosing that information.
That's fine.
We can talk about it.
About a lot of things.
I mean, that'd be the obvious.
Secret sauce.
Streaming some.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple.
All I can say is that the bootloader is something that is kept as simple as possible.
Sure. That's how you're injecting.
It's 2 megabyte size. It's part of our secret sauce. So
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so that's this is the machine that we ran earlier on premise. I didn't take the time, but it felt pretty quick. So let's run the load on it, and while it's running, and you can see the initial streaming experience. It's a little bit slower than what you used to, but it will go much faster as we move along. Right? Let's bring in Task Manager, and we can see some of the information in this new machine. So 8 vCPUs and 15 gig of RAM. This is the new machine that we selected. Now let's go and run the load test. And of course, one of the things we'll do is once it reaches the high load, we'll go back to ESX and see what happens there. Right?
understand that if you were to use, like, I don't know, even vMotion, you needed every single byte to be copied over before it starts. And so this is 200 gigabyte, and it's within 2 minutes it was up and running. So it's orders of magnitude difference in terms of the time to boot up.
Okay, so any questions so far?
So from an administrator's standpoint, once this is configured, I don't ever need to go look in the AWS console like
Correct.
you just did.
That's correct.
It's all from vCenter.
That's
All
correct.
for this. So this is just, we just wanted to show you behind the scenes.
Sure.
You never have to look at
The
it.
integration both on the vSphere side and the AWS side is purely native. So if someone goes into the Amazon console and stops a machine or reboots a machine, it will also show up in vCenter. So there's, we'll try to be as transparent as possible.
And your plugin is both the traditional VI client as well as the web client, or
I wish, but right now it's only the web client.
We get there.
Maybe VMware can resolve that
But
one.
I hear that that in 6.0 is going to be faster. So.
So can I set up some kind of policy, might be going a bit far, but even just alerting to say this VM has been running out in AWS for 3 days now. Did you mean to do that, or do you want to bring it back? Because I can see myself moving something out there to cover one big event and then forgetting to ever bring it back. It's 4 times the size it used to be.
Definitely. So you can do it both ways. You can do it by reporting on vCenter side. You can do it by reporting on the Amazon side. The VMs that we move over, we tag them specifically, that they're managed by Velostrata, which cloud extension they're associated with, which vCenter they're associated with. So you can do this type of cross-reporting and generate whatever alerts you wish. And of course, everything is accessible with the REST API on our end, so you can also automate it with your script.
The vast majority of our customers prefer right now to say they have vCenter. We continue to work from vCenter, and that's why we tap into the APIs of Amazon. We bring everything we need for configuration and monitor back into their vCenter, and so they don't really have to worry about any other things. But if some customers may use some hybrid in the future, we'll support it as well.
Sure.
Okay, so we got 4.5 minutes left. So let's look at that. So the system is running now full load. I'll do two things. First of all, I'll go back to vCenter and show you the effect on the host, and
Pretty cool stuff.
we'll see what goes there. And you can see the spike from the previous run when it ran on-prem. You can see the activity that is going on the host right now when it's running in the cloud. And keep in mind that we also have the VPN as a virtual appliance in here, so it's working a little bit harder. But you can see the offload of your on-premise compute. Now, another thing that I wanted to show you is a set of graphs that in this version, they're still not integrated into vCenter, but they're going to be. What I wanted to show you is some statistics about the activity that you now see taking place. So the initial spike, booting the machine, starting the applications, up to around 250 IOPS from the client side. And you can see the throughput that was there. And then, as we scroll down, you can see some interesting numbers there around the I/O latency and the data center IOPS. So this is the workload I/O latency as observed by the clients that we serve. Right? You can see write latency is around the 2.5 millisecond range. Read latency starting a little bit higher, around 20, and very quickly converging down to the single digit, about 5 millisecond latency there. You can also see the data store IOPS during this operation when we're running the user load, and you can see that very quickly there's a reduction of activity on the data store on premise, and overall, if you look at the numbers, you're sitting at around 12, 15 IOPS in the data store on prem, while in the cloud it was up to 250. So there's also offload of the IOPS on your storage there.
I'm gonna bring it back.
Okay, so let's do the next obvious thing is, okay, the peak is over. I don't want to pay for this large machine in the cloud when I can run it locally with its original form. So to do that, let's just go back to that machine, and the move back on-prem is as simple as the move back as the move to the cloud. But before I move it back, let me just go and add some state that we can inspect on the way back. Okay, so I'll just minimize this load generator, let it run in the, and I'll just quickly create a new small document. And okay, and let's save it. And I don't need to shut it down myself. I can just go back to the machine in vCenter, right click on it, and now I have the option to run it back on premise. And this is where I'm also given the choice to force a move back in case the cloud is not responsive, it's not accessible, etc. Okay, so pretty soon you'll see the system would just shut down. Actually, it's gone already, and you'll see the status in vCenter reporting to move back. This process also takes about a couple minutes, and then we can start the machine on premise.
Cool.
Okay, so we have about 10 seconds left. I just want to, while this is moving back, just in conclusion, I just want to mention that this product is in beta stage. It has been tested already. We announced it in the launch that we launched the beta product. It's been tested by a number of customers, 3 of which are public, and there's reference to them in our website. They've given some great feedback. But there's actually a larger number of customers that have been testing with for a couple weeks. Actually, sorry, a couple months since the summer, beginning of the summer, with great results. And we're still in beta. So that's where we are right now.
What's your anticipated GA?
So we're not disclosing it right now, but we're developing a lot of enterprise products. We want to make sure that the product is ready before we go GA. Yeah. So we get some feedback. It's not perfect right now, but it's working pretty well. Once we feel ready, we'll go. We'll announce it, but not yet. But we have great experience though. Now, are you less confused now?
Yeah,
No, he's not.
you can read my face.
I hope you're less confused, but if not, we'll be happy to take more questions offline. And we love our technology, so we're happy to talk about it. Is it back by now?
Yeah, it's back. Let's turn it on.
Did you get the answer to your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I want to make sure that.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So let's turn it on and connect to it once it comes up, and we should.
Now imagine how long it would have taken to do this back and forth with a full replication. You wouldn't be happy here with the 1 hour, that's for sure.
You know what I really like about this demo? You're using Windows.
I'm surprised it worked.
That's what I'm saying, because that's perfectly positioned.
You
to
mean for
show.
the guest?
If it works on Windows, yes, for the
Yeah.
guest.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny because Linux is actually faster, but we wanted to go.
Imagine so, yeah.
Rubbermaid.
It's easier
And
to
the driver
manipulate.
injection, all that stuff.
yeah.
But we started Windows because it's harder, but also because customers that we have, for the production workloads, SAP, CRM, they're Windows. But actually, it's half and half right now. But Linux is the easy part.
Right.
Okay, so you can see the machine is back on premise, and again, I'll connect to it. And if you noticed, all along the demo, I was using its DNS name, right?
Yeah.
Right.
As it transitioned across. So let's connect to it.
And that's because you said it hooks into your DNS and updates the IP address.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, through the VPN.
Through the VPN.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't need VIP.
We're running out of time.
What's that?
We're in the
It
red.
doesn't need VIP.
Should be up in a
What
second.
sort of time does it take you to get this implemented so I can start using it? Like, is it an hour, a day?
To use it,
Yeah.
if you have the VPN already set up with the Amazon side, it's just a matter of half an hour tops. The thing is that there's a small virtual appliance to deploy, register a plugin into vCenter, and then just create a cloud extension, which is where you configure which Amazon account to connect to, and everything else is deployed automatically for you. The cloud extension deployment takes about 10 minutes to deploy the distributed virtual appliance, and from then on you can just
There's automation scripts that Amazon provides, etc. So it's pretty quick. There's a one-time setup, but once it's set up, after like this set of hour or whatever, it's complete. It's very easy. It's just very, very easy to go, back and forth. Yeah.
Do I have time to ask one more question?
No.
One more and I'm done.
Short one
Real
this
quick.
time?
Short one.
Sure.
You said that everything it's managed from the data center.
From the
So you
vCenter.
have-
Yeah.
So if I have a bunch of VMs running, a bunch of workloads running in the cloud, and that appliance is getting overloaded, does it auto deploy another appliance and scale it?
yeah. So you can deploy additional appliances.
Do it automatically for me?
So today the deployment of additional appliances is not automatic, but we'll
Okay.
get there.
Okay.
It's on the roadmap.
It's definitely planned.
But
question,
adding a cloud extension today, it's a click of a button.
It is.
So there's nothing you have to do.
But you can alert on it today, probably, right?
Yeah. So we have APIs, so you can also use VM orchestration tools and other ones to do that. Yeah.
So we got the machine running back on-prem. You can see that demo file that we created was brought on-prem. So
Way over. Just do it.
that's it.
I got it
Thank
now.
you so much.
I can have vCenter as a cloud extension, right? So if I have 3 data centers, I can burst into one of my other data centers?
Not today. Today the target is Amazon, but in the future we could
You
extend.
can
to that as
imagine
well.
many customers have asked us to do
Yeah.
this, but we're almost not built overnight. But we're getting there.
Yes.
It's on the roadmap.
Okay.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right.